once again to your favorite day of the week. Day number 4 with the man, Mr. Frank Scalish. Frank, how you doing, man?
I'm out of sorts. I'm out of sorts today.
What?
Yeah, I feel like I've been talking about fishing for a decade, and I'm kind of like I'm lost in my own head. I have so much that I want to talk about, and I'm starting to lose track of what I've already spoken at.
No, man, you're all good. Matt is not with us today. He is on his way. He's probably in, I don't know, where is he? Pennsylvania by now? Maybe Ohio? I don't know where he is. Headed to New York.
There you go, man. That's where I want to be going. Yeah, I'm actually thinking about, I saw the lake forecast. Friday's supposed to be nice. I might have to go try and find some smallmouths. It's been quite a while since I was out there, and I'm ready. I'm ready.
Man, do you notice my blue dots? There's some that are missing.
Yeah, what did you sell some off?
I did. Kind of people wanted the blue dots, man.
I'm not gonna get into the value of those. We're not going there.
No, we're not going there. But they seem to be disappearing, one dot at a time.
That's good. That's a lot of hard labor gone.
All right, good show today. We're going to dive into a little bit of finessing with the green stuff around.
Yeah, we are. I'm going to show you guys how to get an open hook through the grass. It's going to be crazy.
Nice.
So strap on, because it's going to be wild.
Nice. All right, we'll get into that. And then we're going to talk a little bit about, we have not had a schedule since the announcement of the, did I say schedule? We haven't had a show since the announcement of the 2022 Elite Series schedule. And I'm going to ask you a couple of questions about that toward the end of the show. That are related to performance based upon that schedule. Look, the schedule is the schedule. It is what it is. We're not going to change it. There's only a few people that have the capability of making corrections to it or going to different places and all that. So I want to address, from an experience standpoint, Frank, some performance issues with that schedule. And we'll get into that here toward the end of the show. Before you jump into the finessing in the grass, I got a couple of emails from fans that I want to read to you. A couple of questions.
All right, I'm ready.
Can we dive into this?
Yes,
we'll dive into this. All right, this one is from Keith. Oh, I'm sorry, it's from Kevin. Now, Kevin, he works, I think he works some different hours because he is traveling the country, and a lot of times he doesn't get to watch Day 4 live. So here is his question. He actually has two. The first one, hi, Mark. I really enjoy the show. My job involves traveling around the country and making numerous stops during the day. So I'm not able to listen to the show straight through, but listen to it on YouTube. I have two questions for Frank. The first question, is Bomber still making the Long A series in gold chrome? Do you know the answer to that?
I do not know the answer to that, and I should. Holy smokes.
But you'll find out.
I will find out, actually.
Right.
I will find out, and next Thursday you will have your answer.
We will find out.
Now, is he talking about the 15A, the 24A, what A is he talking about?
He just says Long A series. That's all he says, in gold chrome.
All right, that's got to be the 15A and the 24A.
Yeah, he says, I haven't been able to find them anywhere. So, find out on that one. All right.
Or it could be the 6A or the...
Yeah, we'll find out. We'll find out on that one. All right, the second one, very interesting question. I enjoy fishing everywhere from the cypress swamps to the highland reservoirs. I will be retiring in a few years and would like to be somewhere that would be a reasonable distance, say a couple hours, drive either way, to a wide range of water types. Any suggestions where I should look to retire?
Wow.
Have you ever been asked that before?
I've never been asked that before, but
yeah,
I actually thought about places that I would like to live, just for lake purposes. North Carolina's good because it puts you in a rifle shot away from some fantastic inland fishing and a very diverse inland fishery, because you have grass lakes, you have pure structure lakes, and then of course my love and addiction for saltwater fly fishing, I'll just be a few hours from the coast. So I thought about North Carolina. The other place I thought about was Table Rock, and I don't understand why I gravitate towards Table Rock. I love the lake. I love the amount of different ways you can catch fish on Table Rock, and then of course the White River's down there, for big brown trout, for fly fishing and stuff like that. But also, I'm so torn because Tennessee is another place that puts you in proximity to gobs of different types of fishing waters.
Yeah.
And it's the diversity, and like Keith is saying, it's the diversity in the lakes that intrigue me. Champlain, Oneida, that whole New York region is another place, but I just don't want to deal with the winters all the time anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just, you're only fishing for, 4 or 5 months out of the year. So if I move somewhere, I would go somewhere I can fish 12 months out of the year.
All right.
And
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll narrow it down for you. I would say North Carolina, Tennessee, or Table Rock.
Missouri.
Yeah. I say Missouri. You say Missouri.
That's because the wife is from Missouri, and I take abuse for always saying Missouri. All right, it's Missouri.
Okay,
I'm
going to start saying Missouri now.
Yeah, Missouri.
I could say Missouri easier than I can say it's a good in.
Yeah, but see, you could be hip too, Frank, and just go Mizzou. Just say Mizzou.
I could.
Yeah.
I could. But I can't say that either.
Let me ask you about this one. This one is kind of obscure in some ways, but people will go, Jeffries, what are you talking about? But hear me out on this. One place that I think is really, really cool, and I've actually been there, is Charleston, South Carolina. And here's why. Yeah. Here's why. You're in a great, great area to not only freshwater fish, but to offshore fish too, or ocean fish.
Yeah, you know what? That escaped my grasp. And not only that, you're close to Santee. You're close to a lot of lakes. Murray. That's another good place.
Yeah.
So we're not narrowing Keith's search down, are we?
No, we're not. We're not helping him at all.
No, by the time we're done with this, he could just pick a state.
Yeah, dude. There's a lot of places. I love your Table Rock suggestion. That's one of my favorite places on earth. But it's hard to be 2 hours away from that diversity. With Charleston, that's the one thing about Charleston. Yeah, you may be 4 hours, but you can get very, very diverse. Florida's not that far away. Hartwell's not that far away. The Potomac is not that far away. I mean, it's a little bit of a drive, but you got a lot of diversity. And yes, the summers are extremely hot there, but in this day and age, you tell me a place besides upstate New York or Canada that isn't just 1,000 degrees and 10,000% humidity.
Yeah, even in Ohio, we literally go from winter to summer.
Yeah.
It's like, what happened to our spring? What happened to our long drawn out fall?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So there are some ideas for you, Kevin, and we will find out about the gold chrome bomber A. Long A, excuse me. All right, this next thing, this is an email that I received from one of the first people that did the locker room. And I'm just going to read a couple sentences here. And this is from Mick, all right?
Way to go, Mick.
Mick says, Frank is not just a master angler. He's a master educator. His ability to key into the student's knowledge and tailor his information to their level is outstanding. He can do this because he has lived it and can anticipate what the student needs to hear. I've paid for every type of instruction out there. I am hungry for knowledge. There is absolutely no equivalent to spending an hour in the locker room with Frank Scalish. How about that?
Dude, I got goosebumps. The hair on my arm is standing up.
So,
hey, thanks for that,
yeah,
Nick. Thanks a lot. That means a lot to me.
That's great stuff. And folks out there, if you submitted a form to spend an hour in the locker room with Frank, I am working my way down the list. We got absolutely bombarded. We're actually booked all the way through September. So I will continue the quest and trying to get everybody lined up. And please, we're going to do everything we can to get to everybody that submitted a form. I had to cut it off because just in sheer numbers, there has to be an end, right, Frank?
Well, there never has to be an end, but to make it manageable, we can't. We can't produce 100 people and not have it going into 8 months, 9 months out. So we're going to kind of do small groups and get them in, and do small groups and get them in.
Yeah. The other thing is it's quality, not quantity. We really want to make this a high level educational experience with whatever you want to talk to Frank about. And so far, so good. So folks, I will be reaching out to you as soon as I can to get you booked for the locker room. All right, Frank, I'm ready to talk grass and finesse fishing. Let's go.
Let's do this. Okay. So I put out a flick shake video, and it's on now. It's running right this minute. It's available on LureNet YouTube. It's a flick shake video, and I'm actually fishing the flick shake in a grass lake, and I'm actually throwing this thing in the grass. I talked about the Ned rig, fishing the Ned rig under the same situation with the grass, and my DM messages got blown up because guys are like, "You're fishing an open hook. How are you not snagging all the grass?" and blah blah blah. So I said, you know what? This needs addressing, because I do not throw weed guards on a lot of my finesse rigs when I'm fishing the grass.
Really?
Yes, I do not throw a weed guard. During the show that I filmed the other day, I had broken off. In a hurry, I grabbed a flick shake head, tied it on, and it had a weed guard on it. I landed one fish. I missed two fish. I landed another fish, and I said, I never lose fish on this rig. I don't understand it. I looked. I saw the weed guard. I took my pliers and pulled it out, and never lost a fish the rest of the day. So I just don't. Now, in brush piles, that's different. I'm not talking about fishing in brush. I'm talking about fishing it in grass. Open water, never a weed guard. Okay, so here's the thing. First and foremost, and then I'm going to show you. I have maps, and I'm going to show you. And I didn't draw these maps. I actually pulled them off the internet. So I'm going to show you exactly the places to look for, so you'll see exact locations and how to approach it. So in the flick shake rig, I have a 5-inch Yum Dinger, and I have my little flick shake head. Okay. So what I do is I go to the center of the bait. The center of the bait is actually here, but I do it just a smidge off center. I want a little bit more of little less of the fat part on the hook and a little more of the skinny part of the dinger on the hook, just like so. Okay. Whoops. Where am I going?
Right there.
Okay. The heaviness of the head will offset it. And when the thing sinks, the legs will go like this when it sinks, but it'll also swing like this as it's falling down. Okay. It's important to know. Now, when I'm flick shaking, I'm not fishing vertically. I'm bringing it down, petering grass edges that are dissipating as the depth goes down. The grass starts to break up, and I'm actually casting it out, and I'm working it back towards the boat. I let it fall right down to the grass till it lands on the grass. Okay. And then I shake it a little bit, lift it up, and then let it fall back down. So basically what I'm doing is I'm walking it down the grass. As the grass goes down, so is my bait going down with the grass. This is an absolute outstanding way to fish this thing. Sometimes you'll get bites as it's falling, but every time you come off of a piece of grass and it falls to the next level, don't forget it's moving down there, doing its thing, lands on the grass, you shake it a little bit, let it go back down, shake it a little bit. And when I shake it a little bit, I lift up on the rod because I want it to go up and then back down, up and then back down. That's how you get the bites on this bait. So off center just a little bit, not much. Like if I put the hook over here, it would be dead center on the bait. So I'm maybe a 1/4 inch off center. I found the bait moves a little bit better that way. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about the Ned Head, and here's the whole key. And I had a guy yesterday DM me, and he said he's Ned rigged in the grass, like I said, and he couldn't get it through the grass. He kept snagging it. Well, here, these two Ned hooks are the exact same size hook. I mean, size weight. They're both 3/32 of an ounce. But if you see, this one is the tiny hook. This one is a big, long shanked hook. I don't know if I can show you the better way, but one of them's the short shank, one of them's the long shank, even though they're the same. Okay, so here, I'm going to rig this thing up on the long shank, and I'm going to show you why this hook is not the one you're going to use in the grass. And for 2 reasons, actually. Ouch. Good hooks. Okay, so I have it rigged, and this is the long shanked hook. Okay, let me hold it here. Long shanked hook. This will never go through the grass. Okay, you have too much distance from your line tie to the hook point. So when the bait goes in the grass and rolls, it's going to snag on everything. It's too much distance there because your line will also act to push the grass away from the bait. So this hook I would never, ever, ever use in the grass. Plus, it takes up so much of the bait that now only the back part of your bait is moving. Okay, so now let me show you the difference here. Maybe I'll leave this rigged and then I'll rig the other one, and this way I could show you guys actually comparison. Both hooks to both hooks. This is my absolute. This technique here is so dynamite, and I catch such big bass on it. Because most people will rig a little 2.5 inch Ned bait rig. I like the 5-inch dinger on the Ned rig because I think I peel to a better class of fish more often. Now the little ones will catch big fish too, and they'll catch a lot of small fish, and you'll catch small fish on the big one too. But predominantly, you're going to eliminate a lot of your 12.5 inch fish, and you're going to wind up catching better quality fish. Now, if you look at that, you see how the hook is in that one compared to this one. This little hook right here will virtually not snag the grass. If you're in bad grass, what I call bad grass, like tiny, skinny, stringy grass, everything's going to snag on that. But if you're in milfoil, coontail, hydrilla, it's not going to snag in it because your line tie is so close to the hook point that your line is actually going to start to move the grass away. This bait won't fall over on its side as much. It'll stay true. It'll track true. And so you could walk it down the grass without snagging in the grass. And the video that I got out, you'll see it because I got great underwater footage walking it down the grass edge, and you'd be surprised at how it comes right through it. And I have videos showing it coming through it. So it's really neat. So and don't freak out about the little tiny hook. I've landed 15-pound steelhead on a hook 3/4 of this size. You're going to land the fish. This thing is going to be pinned right in the roof of their mouth, and they're not going to throw it. So don't worry about that. You'll get the fish. Now here's the other key that I'm doing. I'm using a 7'4" or a 7.5" medium heavy to medium spinning rod with 10-pound braid as my main line and 8-pound fluorocarbon as my leader. But about 18 inches above my little netty guy, I'm putting a micro swivel. This is going to do is help eliminate some of your line twist. If you're, it just helps eliminate some of the line twist, because on a Ned rig, sometimes the bait will spiral as it goes down, and that little micro swivel eliminates any problems you're going to have in the foreseeable future with that. And it doesn't hurt the action of the bait at all, because it's a tiny little guy. And that's my fishing setup. All right. So now here's what I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you, like, if this is our grass lake. So what I did was I marked in orange high percentage places that I'm going to fish. Okay. I'm going to look at inside swings where the contours get tight. But if you notice, it's still got a little tiny underwater point on it. And then I'm going to show you here where you got a tabletop. You got your grass edge comes out, but you see how the contours get flatter and farther apart? That's like a little shelf ledge. Very high percentage area here, especially in the grass, because your grass is going to start to peter out. And then as you go down the break, it's going to dissipate even more, because the grass is only going to grow as deep as the clear water allows it to. And then, of course, you can see the other high percentage areas. Now this particular spot here, I call it's a main bank related structural element, and you can see all the twists and turns in it. Where am I going? You can see all the twists and turns in this structural element. That's what you're looking for. There's a lot of places that the fish can stage on. There's a lot of places they could gang up. So this is one particular spot that I call main bank related structure. Okay. And then if you see over here, always fish your inside swings. Inside swings are great. Okay. Now I'm going to show you another, this is another main bank related structure. But if you see, you have a saddle that comes out and a long underwater point that comes out in front of the saddle. This is a high percentage area because, again, you have super tight contour lines on the inside swing, and you have your tabletop stair step as it starts to go into the point. The other nice thing you can do here is you got vertical stuff too. If you want to get into the verticality structure, if they want more of a hard weed line, you'll have a hard weed line over here. And then of course you got the same thing over here. You have another hard weed line over here. So that's main bank related stuff. Now offshore stuff, and this is where I really move and groove on the offshore stuff. And you can see that I have the high percentage areas marked in orange. You could see I have some with a more vertical, like this one. This one is, where is it? This one is more vertical, and then you've got more of a tabletop area there. That's kind of the stuff I like to key in on. And I'll work my way around. If I start getting bit in a certain area, like let's say if I'm getting bit on this this little inside swing right here, then I'll focus on inside swings all over the place. You see what I mean?
Nice.
There.
Yeah.
And so that's how I break down the grass on these lakes, where I'm going to actually use this technique. And it's not a very difficult technique. Actually, it's kind of relaxing. I mean, you fire the thing out there, it's falling down, doing its thing, and you're paying attention to every time it lands on top of the grass so you can shake it off the grass, let it go down. I catch a lot of big fish doing this, especially on these lakes in the middle of the summertime. I'll usually approach this lake with the 5-inch dinger on the Ned rig or the flick shake, and I'll have a Super Spook or a Super Spook Junior on, because don't forget, you're going to be close to a lot of areas where the grass is almost to the surface of the lake. And if you get overcast skies or a little bit of a breeze going, and current, if they generate current, it's lights out. You could get some topwater action also on these places. So that's kind of when I'm out there flick shaking and Ned rigging, I always got my, in a grass lake, I always got my Super Spook Junior or my Super Spook tied on, just because you can get some really good bites doing that.
Yeah. How heavy was the flick shake?
330 seconds. I always try to stay 330 seconds on lakes that can manage that. Now there's some lakes, where you can go a little bit heavier, but I found, on the Ned rig, the heavier head works really good for spotted bass and smallmouth on, rock points, long rock fingers that stick out, bluff walls, not pure bluff walls, but, bluffy type stuff, because you want to boom, 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 get it down. But when I'm fishing stuff like that, I'm going to probably, unless the bite is really finicky, I'm probably going to go football jig Carolina rig on that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But you can, and of course, smallmouth fishing on any of the major smallmouth factories, the heavier Ned Head is better, just because you're fishing much, much deeper. Yeah. But as far as flick shaking and Ned rigging goes, normally I'm 330 seconds. I find that comes through the grass the best. It gets me down where I want to be, and I don't lose sensitivity. When I go lighter than that, I get wind issues where if it's breezy out, the flick shake or the Ned Head start to swim away because of the bow in your line from the wind. And if I go too heavy, I don't get that response that I want from the fish as the thing's just gradually fluttering down. You know what I mean? I get a better response on that 330 second.
Yeah, check this out. I actually have some of that footage.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. So let me see if I can play it. It doesn't last that long, but
there's like 3 or 4 cuts like this in this video.
All right.
But you see what I'm saying. I mean, that there's other grass cuts in this video that will show it better.
I'll keep looking through here. That's one.
Yeah, but you see how I'm pulling it up over the grass. It should be some more as the video gets towards the end.
All right, let's see here.
Nope.
There we go.
There you go. Good get on pulling the video up, man.
Yeah.
You see how that thing moves? Look at the little bluegill running it down. That bluegill thought he was bad to the bone, didn't he?
Let's see here.
Little did he know he was about to come in contact with Uncle Frank.
Oh, there. I think there's one more. Let's see here.
Yeah, there it is. But as soon as it hits the grass, I know that it stopped. You know what I mean? I know it stopped. Yeah. And so then I do it again. But the whole key is when you pick it up off the grass, you want to pick it up off the grass. Don't pull it sideways off the grass. Pick it up off the grass. So it comes up and over, the remaining stalks. It's a really great technique, and it's really fun to fish. To me, it's the most relaxing fishing, bass fishing that I do, because I'm kind of really calm. And if you see the video, you'll see it. I'm like really laid back, almost like, hey, dude, what's up? Just because it's mellow. I mean, it's not combat fishing. It's pure finesse. It's real mellow. And I know I'm going to catch a ton of them. So I don't really, I don't get all amped up like, when I'm deep cranking in Carolina rigging, I'm amped up all the time, because it's like part of my extension of my arms is that big crankbait in the Carolina rig. So
nice. Now, hang on. if my mouse will work. Geez, there's some questions here.
Good. I need questions.
I
live on questions.
Yeah, let's see here. I know Frank is fishing the edge, but how far in the grass does he cast/start to fish the edge good?
Okay, so this is going to be your trial and error cast. If you cast it too far where the grass is only a few feet from the surface, you're going to know it because it's going to sink into that mat of grass, and it's going to be a little harder to shake it out. You'll still shake it out, but you're going to be in that mat of grass, and you're going to be in the strike zone the minute you come free from that and it starts to fall. That's when you're in the game, okay? If the grass is real thick and heavy on top of some of these breaks, you might want to go in there with a heavy slip sinker and punch it, but that's not what we're talking about today. So what I want to do is I want to be right on the edge of the thickest part of the grass and then work it down from there. That's where this technique excels. And you guys are going to be amazed at how this comes through the grass with an open hook. And and the other thing is you're going from 10-pound braid to 8-pound fluoro. There's none of this drop down and hammer on the fish. All you're doing is he's going to get it, and you're going to feel him get it. He's going to get it, and all you're doing is pulling tight on him and just reeling him in. Because here, look, this hook is like a needle. It's a tiny little, look at that. I had to put it by the bald spot on my head so you could see it. It's like a tiny little needle. It's going to penetrate instantly. So it doesn't require a massive amount of hook setting. It's just tighten up on them and pull, and you got them. And then let the fish fight you. Hold tension on him, and he'll fight his way up out of the grass. Sometimes the bigger ones want to bury you in, but if you keep your tension on him up high, he's going to start to swim away from that grass, and you'll just have to play him out. I don't rely on my drag a lot. I back reel a lot, especially if I get a giant, and I've caught 6 and 7 pounders doing this. If I get a giant, I'll start to pull my boat out with the trolling motor to get me over the deeper water. This way, if he does make a big run, I'm not getting buried up in the grass. So, fighting the fish is a completely different animal. I mean, you guys will figure that out by trial and error. But the best thing to do when you got a giant on is just ease yourself off the grass edge. Don't put the trolling motor on high. Just ease the fight off away from the grass and get him over open water to fight him up. And you'll be fine. You'll land everyone.
All right, Bill has the next question. Do you use a swivel in both rigs?
Not on the flick shake, although you can, but I don't usually use the swivel on the flick shake, but you can. It won't hurt anything. But on the Ned rig, I always do. And I don't use they make a micro swivel that's so small that you can barely see the damn thing. Don't use that one. Use the next size up. And I apologize, I don't know the exact size number on it. But the super mini one, like for ice fishing stuff, won't hold up. You run the risk of pulling the swivel apart. Okay.
All right, next question from our good friend JD wants to know, Frank, do you use scent on your plastic? Taco Ito was using a Japanese scent that's not available in the U.S., so fish had never been exposed to it. Do you feel that this is a factor? I think it does. What are your thoughts?
Okay, my thought is this. Scent can't hurt. It can't hurt. Yum makes a really good scent, and, of course, Berkeley makes a really good scent. I experimented with other ones. Back in the old days, I used to use this stuff from Kodiak, freeze-dried paste. That used to be fantastic. But with the Yum scent and the Berkeley scent, I take a Ziploc freezer bag, and I put 10 or 12 baits in it, squirt a little bit of scent in there, mush it around, zip it shut, and I leave it on the front deck of my boat, and it bakes in the sun, and it gets all permeated into the plastic. I do the same thing with the Berkeley scent. Either either the regular Berkeley stuff or Berkeley Gulp, and that works out good too. But as far as like, am I a dyed-in-the-wool advocate of scent? I use it, but I don't use it like all the time. You know what I mean? I just don't. If I'm smallmouth fishing, I do use it all the time.
All right. Next question, Chris G. Do you ever shove a rattle in the plastic? He said lure, but plastic.
Yeah, I do use rattles a lot, but I don't use it on a flick shake rig because it has a tendency to stiffen up your soft plastic and it doesn't move as good. You can use it on the Ned rig, and with the Ned rig, if I use it on the Ned rig, I put it right behind the hook. I don't put it on the hook shank area of the bait. I put it right behind it. So when I stick the rattle into the soft plastic, it's between the hook and here. So the point of the rattle's touching the back of the hook, and then the rattle comes out away from the hook. Because you'll break the glass rattle. If you try to insert it where the hook shank is, there's not enough plastic in there to hold the rattle and the hook shank, and you have a tendency to break the glass rattles that way. So I'll put it right behind it. But for the most part, on these two techniques, I'm not really rattling them up. It's a very finessey, very, it just, the fish are seeing it as it's falling. And so I don't put the rattle in. I actually don't want the added weight either.
Yeah. Okay, Frank, in simple terms, to have the fans who are watching and listening on the podcast, visually, can you explain, and I know we had the maps earlier, but I'm trying to give people a little bit better indication of what you're talking about. Are you going down the grass line, or are you throwing directly into the grass?
Okay, it's all predicated on my contour lines.
Okay.
So if my contour lines are okay, I'm going to do this visually. I'm going to do this verbally so the guys listening could get an idea.
Yeah.
Let's say you have contour lines that are spread gradually apart. That means you're going to have a slower taper to the break line. The tighter the contour lines, the steeper the break. So when I talk about a tabletop or a flat spot, it's where the contour lines start to spread out again, and it creates like a flatter spot. When I'm fishing those instances, I'm throwing up to the high spot and I'm working it down the break line.
Okay.
All right. When I come to steeper grass edges, I'll start out perpendicular to the grass, throwing up on the top of the grass and letting it fall down the grass edge, straight down. If I see that my bites are occurring right before the bait hits the bottom, then I'll parallel it. Because now I know that the bass are relating to the base of the stalks where it meets the bottom right before the super steep drop off.
Okay.
And that's how I determine how I'm going to fish it. Personally, when I'm doing this stuff, I want tapering grass, stark vertical grass edges. You have to be really close on your casts because the bass could be in those caverns and come out and get it when the bait comes by. So I fish the tapering ones, always casting up, bringing it down the taper. The steep ones, I start out casting up, and if I get bit as it's closer to the bottom, then I parallel it.
All right. Next question. I can recall the first time that myself and some of the other people that I fished with many years ago, the correlation between fishing grass and trying to identify where to put the bait, just like you described, there seems to be a tendency that people like the cleared out areas. In other words, like a trash can lid hole in the grass, and that's what they like to either flip or pitch, or we're talking about finesse fishing here.
And flipping and pitching, that's where you put it.
But with this, do you target those holes? That's my question.
No, I don't, because I'm not looking for. I'm actually not fishing for those bass.
Okay.
Okay. If I was fishing for those grass, looking for holes and pockets in a grass flat, I would be pitching and flipping something with a Texas rig.
Okay.
This is getting offshore on the structural breaks, fishing the tapering grass edges on the structural breaks. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't go with a Texas rig. You absolutely can. This is when I'm fishing this, when I'm not getting enough bites on the Texas rig, because something's amiss then.
Yeah.
Okay. The fish they're not at the base of the grass edges. They're suspending high in the grass, even as it's tapering down. So the Flick Shake and the Ned rig are appealing to the bass feeding up on it.
Gotcha. That's some juice right there.
Yeah,
because
100%.
the tendency is so many people, they see those holes and that's what they want to target. And if you go out and you try to apply what Frank's telling you right now, listen to how he is describing. And if you need to go back and listen to the replay, listen to how he is describing on what to target when you are fishing this grass. Here's the other thing. Here's the other thing too, Frank. I think a lot of people that are just starting out, they may have $5,000 worth of electronics on their boat. But until you educate yourself and get experience in really identifying not the visual points, but the actual lines that appear on your mapping software to identify what is below the water, to identify what to target, that makes you so much better once you can really, truly get dialed in on what to look for on your electronics. Agree or disagree?
No, you're 100% right. You know, the funny thing is, I was filming the other day, and my cameraman said, I don't understand how you know what your 2D sonar's telling you. And it's no slam on him because he's a great fisherman. In fact, when we're done filming, a lot of times, if we have any daylight left, we go smash him, and he catches them. He's a good fisherman. Mm-hmm. He's a great cameraman too, by the way. But anyway, I was telling him that back in the day when GPSs first came out, there wasn't a map on it. It was just a gray screen and a line, your track line.
Yeah.
That's all it was. So, and before that, we didn't even have GPSs. We had paper graphs and flashers. So I used to carry about 10 or 12 buoys with me, and I would idle over up and down and find the break lines. And everywhere the break line would start to flatten out, I would drop a buoy for boat position. I would never put the buoy on top of a rock pile or on top of a grass edge. I would always put it at the break of the basin. So then I knew that all I had to do is follow my buoys, and I would be in casting range of where I needed to fish, which is a good habit to get into for first timers. Even with all your expensive electronics, if you're having issues reading your 2D sonar, if you go up, back and forth over a break, and here I'll show you what I'm talking about. I'll just pick one of these maps out again, and I'll show you.
Let's see here.
Oh, you got the Uncle Frank on the fishing game there.
Yeah, there we go.
So if you see how, actually, this is probably a bad one. Let me get the other one. Oh yeah, this will be a good one. Okay, so if you see how, where's my hand at? If you see how you got some tight contour lines right here, and if you see how this swing in here moves, right?
Yeah.
So if I idle up here, it's going to be an immediate break. It's almost going to look vertical on my graph. When I do it here, it's going to be a little bit flatter because those contour lines are farther apart. Now out here, it's going to be steeper. So if I lay my buoys out here and out here and out here, I know that when I'm casting up into the zones that I want to be in, right?
Yeah.
But if you lay a string of about 6 or 7 buoys out there and then turn around and look at it, your buoys will show you how that thing lines up. You know what I mean? You'll see your buoys doing whatever their buoys are doing, and you'll go, oh, look at it, swings out over there. You know what I mean? And so then you'll understand, you'll get a visual. So now when you look at your map and you see what your map's telling you, you'll understand what it looks like 3-dimensionally. See, when I look at topographical maps, I don't see them flat. In my mind's eye, I see them three-dimensionally. To me,
Right.
I look at a map and it's like me looking outside. You know what I mean? Like deer hunting, same thing when I deer hunt. I look at the terrain and I know where the deer are going to move, how they're going to run through the woods, where they're going, just because of my three-dimensional abilities to decipher between a map and what I'm looking at. Now on my locators, when I do my 2D locators, I know exactly what that thing's telling me too.
Yeah.
I grew up with 2D.
Right.
You know, we didn't have side imaging and all that stuff. So, but when I see side imaging now, it's like, yeah, okay. You know, I mean, it's just true. Like I like a funny story is on this one particular lake. I've won every tournament I've ever fished on it since like 95 or 96. And I don't fish it all that often anymore because it's super small. And I don't really, not that I don't want to educate people. I just don't want to show them where to go on that lake. So, we didn't have the mapping units and stuff today that we have today. And when I remember the first time I got a good mapping unit in one of my things, and I put that in the GPS and all the map comes up, and I looked at all my old waypoints and I'm like, oh my God, they're all on inside turns and, you know, all the little nitty gritty stuff. I'm like, oh my God, the people are going to know, they're going to see their maps and they're going to know immediately. And, you know, it was amazing. It was really a culture shock the first time I put a good mapping unit in one of my GPSs. I was like, holy smokes. Yeah. I did a lot of work idling around, apparently.
Nice. All right. Frank in Michigan on the instant feedback wants to know, do thinner type of soft plastics work with this technique also?
Oh, yeah, 100%. I'll use a 6.5-inch finesse worm or a 4-inch finesse worm on it as well. And it works the same way. The 5-inch dinger for me though is just a money bait. Now I do use the finesse worms on it as well, because there are times when they want something thinner. Now the little tiny finesse worms, they're thinner, so they move a little bit differently in the water. They sink a little bit quicker. So, you know, if they want that little quicker action, that quicker fall, then I'll use that. But for the most part, that 5-inch Yum Dinger seems to be, for me, it's just my go-to on this technique.
All right. Next question from Matthew. Do you ever use an O-ring for the flick shake?
No, you know what? I never got into that. I'm not saying that that's wrong or right. I just never have done it. I'm the kind of person that I love to tinker with things, and mostly, you know, crankbaits and hard baits and stuff like that. When it comes to soft plastics, the biggest tinkering I do is I'll dye the end of it or I'll put a rattle in it. I want to keep it simple and fast. I don't want to have to sit there and fool around with O-rings. The one time I did put O-rings on them, I found that the O-rings would pinch the bait a little bit and I would tear them in half a lot of times. So I just went right through the center of the plastic.
All right, I'm going to throw him a bone, Frank.
Throw him.
I'm going to throw him a bone. I don't know if you've ever heard of this or not, but for what?
The straw?
Yes. For anybody out there that might have a frozen custard franchise out there, like here in Oklahoma, we have Freddy's frozen custard. They have these extra big, large straws that if you get a concrete is what they're called, and they have fruit in there that you're able to operate your concrete much better, all right, from an enjoyment standpoint than a regular size normal straw. So these things are like jumbo straws. And what's cool is they come in chartreuse, they come in red, and they come in clear, is what I've seen.
Perfect.
And they fit perfect around a Yum Dinger. You just get the scissors out, you cut up little sections, and dude, they freaking work. So if you haven't done that, take a trip to your local frozen yogurt place, get some of the jumbo straws along with the concrete, enjoy dessert. And that is a very, very innovative way, simple, kind of dumb it up a little bit to put those straws on there, and they work much, much better than those O-rings.
Look at Mr. Jeffries giving up the juice, boys and girls.
And it has nothing to do with a Carolina rig.
Unbelievable. Mark this day on your calendars, folks.
Yeah, about the only piece of juice I'll ever give on this show. Anyway, but no,
Not
seriously,
true.
that
Not
works.
true.
That works.
That's a good idea. That's
Yeah.
a really good idea. I still won't use it, though.
All right, we had, hang on here. Yeah, here it is. I had to go back. JB3 wants to know, how does Frank decipher between using a medium action spinning rod versus a medium heavy action spinning rod for finesse techniques?
That'll be really easy. Because I use a medium heavy all the time. If you use too soft of a rod, you're gonna not have the sensitivity you need, especially in this grass technique, to feel it and feather it over and through the grass. It'll be too soft. The tip will give a little bit too much, and you won't be able to get the bait up and over easily. And that'll really be the deciding factor. The braid's going to help out a lot. The braid's going to give you an insane amount of sensitivity with that rig.
Yeah.
The braid to fluoro.
Yeah. Several people want to know, does the type of grass matter?
No, not necessarily. Like I wouldn't go to water willow with it because that tends to grow much too shallow. Usually what I'm looking for is coontail, hydrilla, or milfoil. Seems to be the best. Cabbage grass, and nobody down south will know what cabbage grass is or even looks like. Cabbage grass tends to grow in about 7 feet of water, 8 feet of water, and it'll usually grow on the inside edge of milfoil. So you'll have a cabbage grass line and then milfoil, and then your break. Cabbage grass, you can walk it through the cabbage grass, but that's a tough grass. So if you do hang up in it, you're going to have to go get it. You won't be able to pull the cabbage out by the roots to get it. So generally it's milfoil, coontail, and a hydrilla.
Yeah. Yeah. Some people on the instant feedback and on the comments on YouTube are saying that shrink tube works also compared to this. I could see that. Yeah, I could see that. I've seen that too.
I've done the shrink tube. I have never done the straw. I've done the O-rings, and I go right through the plastic.
Yeah. Okay.
Like I said, doesn't make it right or wrong.
Oh, crap. Hang on.
Uh-oh.
Clay wants to know, what's the deepest grass Frank has finesse fished? Here in Central Texas, I find the hydrilla goes out 25 to 30 feet.
Yeah, and you can easily do that on those grass edges. You're just going to look for the tapering points so you could walk it down the edge. I mean, walk it down the grass. I've finesse fished in Texas as deep as 20 feet. So, yeah, it works. It works good, actually.
All right. This is an interesting question. What type of cover would Frank target on Erie if he was targeting big largemouth this time of year?
Yeah, that's okay. You have two factions of largemouth on Lake Erie. Okay, there is shoreline grass, usually in areas that have a lot of main lake points and swings in them that can protect it from the big winds. Mm-hmm. So you'll get shoreline grass. That's an area that I would concentrate on the main lake. There are some rock piles and humps on the main lake that will hold bass offshore a ways, not 3 miles out. I mean, I have caught them 3 miles out, but that's sheerly an accident. Like, I'm talking very near shore stuff. And then, of course, harbors and marinas, is a no-brainer on that.
Yeah. All right, let me ask you this, Frank. The vast majority of fans out there, if they do fish tournaments, yes, there's individual tournaments they fish, but the vast majority of them, they fish team tournaments. A
Yes.
lot of anglers, a lot of fans out there fish team tournaments.
Yeah, they're so much fun.
Yeah, with this tactic that you just described, what would you recommend for teams if they're on this type of pattern? Do you recommend, say, the guy in the front doing what you just described and then the team partner in the back doing something different? Or
more conventional?
Is this a tactic where you would recommend that both people in the boat do the same thing? What are your thoughts?
Okay, now, it's a good question, actually. It's very deep.
Yeah, that's me.
if in fact this finesse bite is your main pattern, I would have one guy flick shaking and one guy Ned rigging it, because the baits fall differently. If you're catching some on the finesse type stuff that we just talked about,
yeah, and
some conventionally, I would have the guy in the back of the boat fishing conventionally and the guy in the front of the boat, or you can switch it around, really.
Right.
Doing the conventional stuff, like, a half-ounce slip sinker and a money craw, or, a 5/16 ounce sinker and a worm, or something to that effect. And then have the one guy doing the finesse type stuff. Because what I have found, that when the finesse bite is really on, they're really not taking a slip sinker rig. And that's when I have two rods on the front of my deck and I'm finesse fishing.
All right, what about the guy in the front of the boat doing the flick shake thing, and then the guy in the back throwing a frog, doing the whole topwater thing, trying to get something that might be on the inner part of the grass area?
Right, and that's going to have to be determined by how far your tapers go from the top of the grass.
Okay.
He'd almost be better off throwing a Super Spook or a Super Spook Junior, because A, you could launch it a mile,
right,
and B, he can fan cast behind the boat and let the guy finesse fishing have the quiet approach up front. You know what I mean?
Unless it's matted up. If it's matted up in those areas, obviously.
Yeah, if it's matted up, a lot of these tapering edges are going to take you too far to fish the frog on top. Right. You're not going to be close enough to do that.
Great point.
So if you look at the break lines and stuff that I pointed out, there's only a handful where you're getting super tight contour lines right to the high spot. So, when you're on those situations, the guy can actually throw a frog on the grass while you're fishing the edge.
Yeah.
But when you get to long tapering points, which is really what I'm looking for those little tabletops. Mm-hmm. So when you get a guy that fishes those, you're not going to be close enough for the frog.
All right. Interesting question. Going along with what Frank, geez, let me start over. Going along with that does Frank think a major tour level Great Lake event will ever be won on Largemouth?
Yeah, when the wind blows so bad they can't leave the harbor. Otherwise, no, not a chance. There's no chance of it. Although I am catching some fish offshore, some largemouth offshore, but not nearly enough to matter, and not enough big ones to make a difference.
Oops, hang on here. Clay wants to know, what's Frank's go-to Ned Head?
Man, I don't even know the name of the company that makes these crazy things. It's a famous. They're very popular. It's like the original Ned Head dudes made it.
Okay.
It's got the little welded keeper system on it, little mushroom head, tiny ass hook, real tiny hook.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't even remember the name of it.
That one. Give me a dozen of that one.
That's what I say. Give me those. I want those.
Jeez. But do you think that this might be a forgotten tactic during the summer because everybody's keying on doing other stuff and they just kind of forget about this?
Yeah, especially, 100%. This doesn't just apply to grass. I'm just talking about the grass. This can apply to regular structure lakes too, but the reason I like doing it around the grass is an acre of grass can hold way more bass than an acre of any other cover. So you're actually getting fish in a confined area. And the nice thing about grass is when you find the fish, there's more than one there. You don't hardly ever just catch one bass on a grass edge. When you catch one, there's more there. This is a great way to clean up an area.
Yeah. All right. Good stuff. Good stuff there. Any other questions? We will try to get to it. I do want to touch on this real quick. Let's see if I can. Oh, good grief. What am I doing here?
I'm not sure, bud. I'm in Ohio.
Yeah, I know.
I want to help you out, but I'm not technologically advanced.
Oh, hang on a second here. I got to change screens. Okay, there it is. Right there.
Holy smokes.
That is the announced 2022 Bassmaster Elite Series schedule. And
I can't even read it.
Yeah, in case people haven't seen it, those are the dates and the locations. And for the most part, it's a lot of the same lakes, a lot of events during the same time of the year. The season's going to wrap up the last week of August. They do have a TBA event in there to be announced. I believe that is for the Toyota Texas Bass Fest or whatever they're calling it these days. But a lot of stops that are returning to the same venues. So, Frank, the question, and obviously we can't do anything, and nobody can really do anything about the schedule.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. And the question that I have for you is, do you think, or what scenario is going to develop from a performance standpoint for the next rookie class that may not have that much experience, if any, on the same bodies of water that the Elite Series continues to go to? Are they at a massive disadvantage? And the education level that, let's say, the sophomore year class or guys that have been out there for their third year now, does this give those guys a definite advantage because of it being the same time of the year, because of the mistakes that they have learned from in previous years? Are these rookies at a total disadvantage because they keep going to the same bodies of water over and over and over? What are your thoughts?
Well, yeah, 100%, dude. I mean, look, there's no better teacher than time on the water. And the more you're familiar with a lake, not so much to find spots to fish, but to recognize when patterns change. If you've been on the lake 20 times and a pattern changes or a new pattern emerges, you go, oh man, I remember 15 places just like that. Yeah. So your time on the water practicing gets cut way down because you're so familiar with that body of water. It definitely has a distinct disadvantage for a guy who's never been on that lake. When I first started fishing Bassmasters, I've never been on any of the lakes that we went to. But back then, we didn't have a 1 month off limit period. I think it was only a week or 2 weeks, 2 week off limit period. So I went before the off limits to do ride arounds to familiarize myself with the lakes. Yeah. It cost me a lot of money to do it, but I had no choice. Otherwise, I'd get throttled. You know what I mean? So, time on the water is an advantage. And yeah, it's gonna be tricky for some of the rookies that don't have that experience. But at the end of the day, if you're a good fisherman and you can break water down fast, you'll find enough to keep you, within the point margin until you get on a lake that you are familiar with.
I thought about this when the schedule came out, and the amount of money, forget about the money that they're going to spend next year on those stops, the amount of money, time, and effort that somebody that might be on that marginal line, are they going to make it? Are they not going to make it? I think I'm going to make it. Okay, if I do this, if I have a top 20, I'm going to make it. The commitment that they have to make right now after that schedule has come out to get on those bodies of water, if they're not familiar with it, is that something that you would recommend to somebody that is on what I call the marginal line?
Absolutely, man. There is no there is no, if you're doing this at the elite level, you're playing for real. This is your job. So you have to understand that you have to do everything within your abilities.
Yeah.
It's like if you're a salesman, you make sales calls. You know what I'm saying? If you're a pro bass fisherman, you got to go to the lake whenever you can get a chance to go there to look at it. Like a bunch of shows ago, I don't remember who you had on. But they knew that where the classic was extended or changed or moved or what have you, they were on the lake in the spring when it had no relevancy to the time they were going to be there fishing it. Yeah. Whatever it was, they were there in the winter or they were there, whatever it was. They were there way when the season wouldn't even be relatable to that tournament, yet they still went out there and looked.
Yeah.
And that's the real deal. I mean, that's how you separate yourself from the men and the boys.
Yeah, I'm going to throw this up here. Tracy says, no, in all caps. No disadvantage. If that were the case, veteran tour competitors would win every event. No Brian New. Look, I want to say this, and then I want to get your take. The thing about so many guys that have been out there for a number of years, and you tell me, Frank, a lot of times the seasoned veterans, they get stuck and stubborn based upon what they like to do, and their expansion of what is necessary to develop as the game has developed really hasn't been performed.
Yeah, they get yes. They get really stuck on, hey, I'm gonna fish my strength.
Yeah.
Well, those fish might not be reacting to your strength.
Yeah.
Listen, the more versatile of an angler you are, the better chances you have on any lake you hit.
Yeah.
Period, bar none. And to say there's no advantage is also not very accurate, because there's lakes where just learning how to run around on the lake without killing yourself is an advantage. It's a time saver in a tournament. Like, I remember the first time I went to Santee Cooper, I didn't know the back way to get to Moultrie, or whatever the round lake is. Marion, Moultrie, whatever the big round lake is.
Yeah.
I didn't know the back way to go through there. So one day I spent my way just track lining a safe way through that backwater area to get into the other lake. And lo and behold, we had a major blow, and the waves were monstrous. And you couldn't just run down the boat channel lane because you'd get killed. And I ran through the cut through. And if I didn't spend the time to learn that, to get through that cut through, I would have wasted an hour plus just trying to get to the diversionary canal to cut through the other lake. So yeah, I mean, there are times when there's not big advantages, and there are times when there are huge advantages. It's not cut and dry, guys. It's just not cut and dry. Like a smallmouth fishery, for example, I don't think there's an advantage to that. The only advantage would be that you have 50 rock piles at your disposal because you found them already. But if you go back there and the season is a little later or progressed a little farther, those rock piles could be vacant and you're basically starting from scratch.
Yeah.
Where a guy who's not been on the water doesn't have any preconceived notions.
Yeah.
So, but here again, guys, we're going back and forth. There are advantages and there are not advantages. And it's predicated based on the seasons you're going there and what type of fishery it is.
Yeah. All right. For a lot of anglers out there, weekend guys and girls that are starting to get into the tournament scene, be it individual or team tournament, what is more important in your opinion in this day and age to become more food? Yeah.
Food and water.
From a fishing perspective, what is more important to become more versatile or to get dialed in on a specific technique and stick with it?
If you're going to become a versatile angler, you have to get dialed in on every technique.
Yeah.
Every technique. not just one. You have to be dialed in on every technique, because if you're a shallow water guy and you're going to rip around throwing square bills and chatterbaits and swim jigs, you're going to get plowed when you go to deep fisheries that are offshore.
Yeah.
So you have to master the shallow stuff, you have to master the intermediate stuff, and you have to master the offshore stuff. It's time consuming. It's not going to happen in a season. But if you have a lake that you really like that's very close to your home, you can use that as your practice lake to fine tune all the different techniques. And that's what I used to do.
Interesting.
I like, look, the parts of the Ohio River are 3 hours from my house. And I used to, when I was a kid, you know, in my late teens, early 20s, remember back when it was called Red Man?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Okay, so I used to go down there and I'd get my brains kicked in by the river rats. And I said, that ain't never happening again. So every free time I had, I ran down to the river and I fished all the different pools. And it took me a while, but once I figured it out, they didn't have any advantage over me. You know what I'm saying? Because I got dialed in on that particular type of fishing. And I did the same thing back in the early days when I was, you know, way younger. Grass lakes perplexed me because I was a pure structure fisherman. So I went to these grass lakes and I would just beat my brains out trying to figure it out until I applied my structure fishing techniques or the way I found fish structure fishing to the grass. And once I did that, the light bulb went off, and then grass lakes didn't bother me anymore. In fact, I'm probably equally as good on grass as I am offshore. And so, you know, so that's how you have to do it. You have to develop all of your skill levels for all conditions of fishing if you really want to be a versatile angler.
Gotcha. That's great advice right there. All right, Chris has a question. Do you think the intermediate stuff is the most overlooked?
I think the intermediate stuff is the hardest to figure out because there's so much of it.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think it's so overlooked as it's just harder to figure out. I put out a couple videos that summer, that early summer post-spawn transition period when nobody can seem to find bass doing any one thing. And I showed you how to go to the spawning areas and work your way out from there to dial in on it. That's the easiest way to find the intermediate stuff. It's hard to find the intermediate stuff working your way from out to in. It's easier to find it going from in to out, because then you're not going to lose. You won't lose the bass. You're gonna get to the bass. There's too much intermediate structure out there to be haphazard about your search process.
Yeah. All right, man. One final question from me. I'm being selfish here. Ito, who won the Bassmaster Elite Series on the St. Lawrence River, final day he had 26 pounds, talked a lot about how on that final day it was like thousands of smallmouth in this one area that he ended up catching 26 pounds in less than an hour.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen that situation on Erie, and is there a story that you can tell us about relating to that situation and going out and catching 26 pounds of smallmouth?
Yeah, 100%. You know, the story that I can I have a lot of them.
Yeah.
But back in the old days, and I say the old days, I'm talking about, 15 years ago or so, Lake Erie had so many smallmouth in it, you didn't have to know anything but how deep to fish. All they would say is, oh, they're in 18 feet. And you run out to 18 feet, you throw a drift sock out, you lob a couple tubes over the side, and you float for 5 miles and catch 100 fish.
Wow.
That's how it used to be. It's nowhere near that now. Now you're being more specific, and you're finding isolated pods of fish. As that massive amount of smallmouth started depleting on the lake, you would find certain honey holes that you would go there and there'd be 30 or 40 fish on them. And you can sit there and just plow them all day long. You know, he said thousands. Okay.
Yeah, thousands.
But he also said his boat was a smallmouth Disneyland. So
yeah,
there was a lot of fish where he was at. And that part of the Great Lakes hasn't been overfished and over tournamentized yet. And so you're still finding pods of 50, 60, 70 fish on a rock pile or on a structural break. So he's 100% accurate. There was a ton of fish down there. Yeah. When in 2010, 9 or 10, when I took third up there on Lake Erie, I had an area that I was fishing ankle deep water. Probably it was not ankle deep, but it was probably like 2 feet deep. And I would say there was probably 70 or 80 bass in this school. And the first day of the tournament, I went out there, I made 6 casts and called a fish and quit fishing it. I went to find some deeper stuff in case the wind blew.
Yeah.
And I had almost 24 pounds of fish in 6 casts.
Wow.
So it happens. And then the second day of the tournament was canceled because we had gale warnings. And the third day of the tournament, they let us out again, but my shallow fish had blown out because it had 9-foot waves crashing on it, that night.
Yeah.
So I went to the deep stuff and hammered them all day long, hammered them. And I fished an area probably 25 yards area, and I don't know how many bass my non-boater and I caught. We caught them. We just hammered them.
Man, so, I've got to say this: what Ito is doing and the year that he had is
fantastic,
massively impressive.
Okay. I'm cutting you off. Back to what we were talking about. Ito has never fished for smallmouth bass in his life.
I know.
He came here and he spent like months on Lake St. Clair to learn how to fish for smallmouth, both in St. Clair and on the main lake.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about when I say you have to perfect every facet of all of your techniques to become versatile. That kid did exactly what you're supposed to do as a professional angler to improve. He said, I never did this before. I got to learn how. Going to this part of the country gives me the ability to fish smallmouth on an inland lake type style and on the Great Lakes type style.
Yeah.
And he literally did his homework. And when he went down to St. Lawrence, he had no discomfort going to the big lake and looking for fish that other guys weren't fishing for.
Yeah.
That's why he did what he did, because he's a student of the game. And you know what? Respect.
Yeah. He's going to be a big factor in the future too. This dude is something else, man. He really is.
Yeah, he has the heart and he has the will. And when you have a guy with heart and will, look out.
Yeah. Great stuff.
Yeah.
Great stuff.
Yeah. One other thing I want to say. You guys, if you go to lurenet.com and you sign up for the LureNet newsletter, and these newsletters come out, I think they come out once a month maybe. There's how-to editorial articles in there, videos. I got videos on there going on, and you'll get 15% off LureNet when you sign up for the newsletter.
All right.
It's a really good thing. And I found out yesterday that the Bandit 200s and 300s are now fully stocked. So we're starting to get stock back in, and everything's starting to flow. So, keep checking it out.
Nice. Remember, folks, we are commercial free, and this day 4 stuff happens because of LureNet.
Yeah.
Not only because of Frank, but
mostly because of me.
Well, can't argue with that.
No, it is. I mean, LureNet, wherever the hell it is.
Right there. There you go.
They are really putting forth an effort to keep day 4 alive. And I really appreciate that.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. All right, man. Monday, Ken Duke is going to make an appearance. He's going to pitch hit for Matt on Monday. Tuesday, I'm still working on it. Then Wednesday, Frank, one of the fan guest hosts is actually going to be sitting to my right.
Uh-oh.
Where Matt sits. He's from Tennessee, but his parents live here in Oklahoma City. He's making a trip to see his parents, and he's going to co-host the show on Wednesday, of which we're going to have Edwin Evers on that Wednesday. So
Edwin's
cool stuff on that.
Yeah, Edwin's a smart cat, man.
Yeah.
Edwin knows his stuff.
Yeah. So we're going to talk a lot about ICAST on Monday, get Ken Duke's take on what went down over the past 3 days in Orlando, and obviously we'll dive into his thoughts on the Elite Series schedule and anything else that has taken place in the bass fishing world. There's only one Ken Duke, dude.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. And we can only handle one.
Good point. Good point.
We can only handle one guy.
Yeah.
One
yeah.
So how does the new surprise host convince his parents that he's really going down to see him, and while he's down there, he's just going to do BTL?
He's good, man. He's good. Taking care of mom and dad.
I wonder if they're going to take offense. Hey, I'm going down there to do a show. Can I stay over?
Good dude, man. Looking forward to it. So, and we will check in with Matt on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday just for a few minutes. See how his practice is going on Lake Oneida or Oneida Lake. Which one is it?
I just call it Oneida, then I'm safe.
Yeah. Good point. Good point. So thank you, fans, once again, for all the great questions, all the engagement from the people out there watching Day 4. And this thing, hey, man, it's the man, Frank Scalish. That's what Day 4 is all about. And I hope everybody bought a Day 4 Frank Scalish t-shirt when we had the merch site open. Wear those very proudly, all right?
Or throw darts at him.
No, don't throw darts at him. All right, we're back on Monday with Ken Duke. Everybody have a safe weekend. That's it. We're out of here.